So Tom, when are you going to share that $1 million inheritance with the family? My sister Jennifer asked loudly enough for our mother's entire 60th birthday party to hear, her eyes shining with that familiar greed I knew so well. The sound of conversation in my mother's Cleveland living room instantly died down. 23 relatives turned to stare at me like vultures sensing fresh carrion. My wife Rebecca nearly choked on the cheap champagne my mother had served, her eyes widening in panic. "I don't know what you're talking about, Jen," I replied calmly, cutting another piece of the birthday cake my mother had bought at the supermarket. "Oh, come on. Everyone knows Rebecca's father left a fortune when he died last year. $50 million. And here you are pretending you're still poor." My name is Tom, I'm 37 years old, and my sister was right about one thing. My father-in-law had left exactly $50 million in trusts and protected investments. What she didn't know was that Rebecca and I had decided to keep this absolutely secret from my family for a very specific reason. Because I knew my family. I knew how my mother had always favored Jennifer and my brother Marcus over me. I knew how they treated me when Rebecca and I bought our modest first home in Akron with our own hard-earned money. "Stuck up," they whispered. "Thinks she's better than us." And I especially knew Jennifer's history with easy money. 3 bankruptcies, 2 ex-husbands financially ruined, and a clear pattern of manipulating any relative who had 2 pennies to rub together. "Jen, even if that were true, what difference would it make to you?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral as I watched the other family members' reactions. "Difference?" She laughed, a shrill sound that cut through the air. "The difference is that we're family. Family shares everything. The difference is that our mother had to borrow money to buy her medicine last month, while you and your little princess are sitting on a fortune." I felt Rebecca stiffen beside me. My mother looked away, confirming that she had indeed asked Jennifer for money, something she had never mentioned to me. But what Jennifer didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Rebecca and I had been extremely careful since her father's death. Separate bank accounts for the inheritance, trusts in other states, lawyers specializing in asset protection. And more importantly, we had been testing our family indirectly for the past 6 months. Small favors denied. $20 loans that turned into weekly reminders. Invitations to expensive dinners that were automatically assumed to be on us. Each test revealing exactly what I suspected about her true motivations. "Mom," I said directly to the birthday girl, who was sitting in the worn leather armchair my father had bought 20 years ago, "did you really borrow money from Jennifer for medicine?" She looked around the room uncomfortably. "Well, It was just temporary, honey. Just until." "Until when, Mom? Until I found out? Or until Jennifer decided to tell everyone you think Rebecca and I are hiding money from a family?" Jennifer crossed her arms, her posture defiant. "We don't think anything. We know. Rebecca's neighbor saw the lawyer at your house 3 times last week. Lawyers don't visit poor people 3 times in 1 week." My jaw clenched. Rebecca's neighbor. Of course. In a small town like Akron, privacy was a theoretical concept. And if it were true, Jennifer? What if Rebecca had inherited money? Why would that automatically become your problem? "Because family is family," she shouted, now clearly upset. "Because we grew up sharing everything. Because when Dad died and left debts, we all helped Mom. All of us, Tom. Including me, who can barely pay my own bills." I looked around the room. Uncle Robert nodding. Cousin Sandy staring at me. My brother Marcus whispering something to his wife. Everyone waiting, everyone calculating, everyone assuming that generosity should flow automatically from Rebecca and me to them. Rebecca touched my hand gently, our agreed signal. It was time to leave. "Well, family," I stood up, Rebecca making the same fluid motion beside me. "Thanks for the memorable party, Mom. Jennifer, good luck with your financial problems." "Wait." Marcus finally spoke up. "Tom, man, it doesn't have to be this way. We can talk about this like adults." I paused at the door, my hand on the doorknob. "Talk about what, Marcus?" "About how to divide money you assume we have. About how the family is entitled to the fruits of other people's labor. About how my wife should support relatives who never lifted a finger to help when we needed it." The silence in the room was deafening. "The only conversation I'm having is with my lawyer. To make sure certain people never get their hands on what doesn't belong to them." We left amid raised voices and flying accusations. Rebecca was pale when we got into the car. "Tom," she whispered, "they know. Somehow they know about Dad's money." "I know," I replied, starting the engine. "The question now is what we're going to do with that information." As we drove in silence through the familiar streets of Cleveland, my mind was already processing the implications. Jennifer wasn't going to give up. My mother was now officially involved. And the rest of the family had just proven exactly why Rebecca and I had kept the $50 million a secret. But they didn't know yet that I had documented every interaction, every attempt at manipulation, every display of greed over the past 6 months. They didn't know that I had already consulted lawyers about protection from predatory relatives. And they definitely didn't know that my silence throughout that party wasn't that of someone being cornered. It was that of someone gathering evidence. If you're enjoying discovering how a family can reveal its true nature when money is at stake, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow how this story of greed and family manipulation is just beginning. Because Jennifer and my mother had just made the first mistake in a long series that I would document meticulously. And when the time came to show who really deserved protection and who deserved consequences, I would have much more than $50 million on my side. I would have the truth. And the truth, when well documented, is the most devastating weapon against family greed. On Monday morning, my phone rang before 7. Jennifer, of course. "Tom, we need to talk about yesterday." Her voice had that controlled tone she used when she wanted to sound reasonable. "Everyone was very upset by the way you reacted." "Upset about what, Jen?" "About the fact that you attacked my wife at a birthday party." "Attacked?" She laughed, but the sound was forced. "Tom, we're family. Family argues about money. It's normal." Normal. As if ambushing Rebecca and me at our mother's party was standard family protocol. "What do you want, Jennifer?" "We want a meeting. All of us. To talk about how we can help each other. Like a family does." Help each other. Harper family code for give us your money. Who's all of us? Me, Marcus, Mom, Uncle Robert, Cousin Sandy. She paused. "Tom, Mom's situation is more serious than she let on yesterday." My jaw clenched. "What situation?" "Her blood pressure medication costs $800 a month. The health insurance cut her coverage. She's rationing her pills, Tom. Taking them every other day." Guilt hit me like a punch in the stomach. My mother was rationing medication, while Rebecca and I had $50 million sitting in trusts? Why didn't she tell me? "Because you've been distant since you married the princess," Jennifer fired back, finally showing her claws. "Because every time anyone mentions money, you act like we're criminals trying to steal from you. And aren't you?" The silence on the line was too long. "Meeting tonight at 7. Mom's house. If you really care about her, you'll be there." She hung up before I could respond. Rebecca was drinking coffee when I told her about the call. Her hands trembled slightly as she set the cup on the table. "Tom, they're using your mother against you. It's classic manipulation." "I know. But what if she really is sick? What if she really needs those pills?" Rebecca touched my hand gently. "Then we help your mother. Directly. Without involving the rest of the family. They'll never accept that. They have no choice." But I knew my family better than Rebecca. I had known Jennifer since she manipulated our parents into buying her a new car at 16, while I worked all summer to buy a used bike. I had known Marcus since he borrowed $1,500 from the college fund my father had set up for me and never paid him back. I had known my mother since she chose to ignore these things because families don't fight over money. What none of them knew was that I had begun documenting their behavior 6 months before Rebecca's father died. Not out of paranoia, but out of experience. When Rebecca inherited a small down payment of $10,000 last April, Jennifer magically developed a medical emergency that cost exactly $9,800. Marcus discovered an investment opportunity that needed urgent capital. My mother casually mentioned that it would be a shame if Rebecca didn't help the family that had welcomed her with open arms. I had recorded these conversations. All of them. What they also didn't know was that I had already spoken to 3 lawyers specializing in estate protection. I had set up irrevocable trusts. I had established charitable foundations. I had taken every legal step possible to ensure that Rebecca's inheritance would remain untouchable by predatory relatives. At 7 o'clock that evening, I arrived at my mother's house alone. Rebecca had developed a headache that would prevent her from attending. In fact, she was at our lawyer's office, finalizing additional documents. The living room was crowded. Jennifer and her current boyfriend, Derek, a used car salesman with a history of bankruptcy. Marcus and his wife Linda, who had lost their house the previous year because they couldn't pay the mortgage. Uncle Robert, who had borrowed money from everyone in the family for the past 10 years. Cousin Sandy, who worked part-time and spent full-time complaining that life was unfair. And my mother, sitting in my father's leather chair, looking more fragile than I remembered. Tom, Jennifer stood up, her smile practical and controlled. Thanks for coming. We know yesterday was intense. Where's Rebecca? Marcus asked, looking behind me as if she might be hiding in the hallway. She didn't feel comfortable coming after yesterday. Of course not, Derek muttered. Rich princess doesn't want to mix with the poor. Derek, I said calmly, you weren't even family yesterday. What part of that conversation is any of your business? Jennifer put her hand on his arm. Derek is here because we're a blended family now. Serious relationships are part of the family. Serious relationships. Jennifer had been dating Derek for 4 months. Well, I sat down on the couch my dad had bought in the 90s, you called me in. What do you want to talk about? Marcus leaned forward. Tom, let's be direct. We know about the inheritance. We know you have resources now. And we know family takes care of family. What resources do you think we have? Tom, Uncle Robert spoke for the first time. Rebecca's neighbor saw the lawyer. She saw the expensive cars at your house. We're not stupid. Expensive cars. Our 2012 Honda Civic and Rebecca's 2015 Corolla. Lawyers visiting our house because we were putting legal protections in place against exactly this situation. And what does that have to do with you? It has to do with Mom, Jennifer said, her voice dropping to that familiar worried tone. Tom, she's sick. Really sick. And she can't afford her medicine. All eyes turned to my mother, who remained silent. Mom, I said directly to her, is this true? Do you need help with medicine? She looked away. I don't want to be a burden, honey. You wouldn't be a burden. But why didn't you come to me directly? Because, Jennifer interrupted. You made it clear you don't care about your family since you got rich. I never said that. You didn't have to. His actions spoke for themselves. The room went tense. I could feel the script they had rehearsed, the coordinated pressure, the guilt being applied with surgical precision. But what they didn't know was that I had predicted this conversation exactly. Word for word. And I had prepared for her in a way none of them could have imagined. Okay, I finally said, let's talk about helping the family. But let's establish some ground rules first. Jennifer smiled, thinking she had one. Marcus relaxed his shoulders. Uncle Robert nodded approvingly. None of them realized that I was recording the entire conversation on my phone, documenting every word they would use against themselves in the very near future. Because the family meeting they had planned to manipulate me was about to become the most important piece of evidence I would ever need to protect Rebecca and me permanently. First rule, I said, keeping my voice calm as I watched every face in the room. Total transparency. You want to talk about family money? Then let's talk about all the family money. Jennifer frowned. What do you mean? I mean that before we discuss anything about Rebecca and me, let's review the financial history of everyone here. The discomfort in the room was immediate. Marcus exchanged a nervous glance with Linda. Derek stopped swinging his leg. Cousin Sandy suddenly became very interested in her fingernails. Marcus, I continued, you still owe me the $1,500 you took from my college fund in 2003? Tom, that was 20 years ago. That was theft 20 years ago. But let's move on. Jennifer, how many times have you borrowed money for medical emergencies that never happened? I've always had real emergencies. Like that $4,000 emergency surgery last month that, coincidentally, cost exactly the amount you saw Rebecca deposit into her account? The silence in the room was deafening. Uncle Robert, I turned to him, do you want to tell everyone how many times you borrowed money promising to pay it back and never did? Or do you want me to tell them? Tom, son, we don't need to dig up the past. No, Uncle. You brought the past here when you decided that families should share everything. So let's share everything. Including the debts, the lies, and the manipulation. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. Tom, please, it doesn't have to be this way. Mom, I turned to her, feeling my heart tighten. Do you really need $800 a month for medicine? Or is this just another story Jennifer made up to blackmail me? Tears began to form in her eyes. I do need the medicine, yes. But maybe not as much as. How much, Mom? How much do you really need? $200 a month, she whispered. Jennifer exploded. Mom, you said 800. Because you said he would only help if it was a real emergency. And there it was. Confirmation that even my elderly mother was being manipulated by Jennifer to extort money from me. Derek, who had been quiet until now, decided to join in. Man, you're being really hard on your family. They just want help. Derek, I looked directly at him, you have no credit cards, you live in Jennifer's apartment because you got kicked out of yours, and you owe child support to 2 ex-wives. What part of my financial situation is any of your business? His face turned red. Jennifer told me about you. How arrogant you've been since you got rich. Rich. I laughed genuinely. Derek, you don't even know me. You've been here 4 months, and you think you understand the dynamics of a 30-year-old family. Marcus tried to intervene. Tom, man, we're all going through tough times. The economy is tough. The economy didn't force you to lose your house gambling at the casino, Marcus. The economy didn't make you lie to your wife about where you were spending the money from your joint account. Linda turned to Marcus, shocked. You were gambling? You said it was an investment. Linda, it's not like that. Enough, Jennifer shouted, standing up. Enough of this crap, Tom. You really want to sit there and humiliate us when you have $50 million sitting in the bank. Ah, there was the exact number. Now I knew they had done a lot more research than they had admitted. How do you know the exact amount, Jennifer? She realized her mistake, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. We estimated. Estimated 50 million exactly? That's a very specific estimate. Uncle Robert cleared his throat. Tom, that doesn't matter. What matters is that you have the resources to help the family, and you're choosing not to. You're right, Uncle Robert. I am choosing. And you know why. Everyone looked at me, waiting. Because for the last 6 months, ever since Rebecca inherited the first $10,000 from her father, you've turned every family gathering into an extortion session. Every phone call into a request for money. Every visit into an opportunity to manipulate. Cousin Sandy finally spoke up. Tom, family helps family. That's how we were raised. Family helps family, Sandy. Where were you when Rebecca and I bought our first house and needed help moving? Where were you when she lost her job last year and we went 3 months tight? Where were you when I had pneumonia and needed someone to take me to the doctor? Silence filled the room again. Family helps family when it's convenient, right? When there's money involved. But when it's work, time, or genuine concern, family gets too busy. Jennifer was red with anger. That's different. You always thought you were better than us. No, Jennifer. I've always worked harder than you. And now that it's paid off, you want the benefits without putting in the effort. So you're not going to help your mother? Marcus asked, playing his final card. I'm going to help my mother, I said firmly. The $200 a month she really needs for medicine, I'll pay directly to the pharmacy. Every month. No drama, no family meetings, no extortion. What about the rest of us? Derek had the audacity to ask. The rest of you can learn to live without the money that never belonged to you. I got up to leave, but Jennifer blocked my way. You know what you are, Tom? A selfish piece of shit who forgot where he came from. I know exactly where I came from. I came from a family that taught me that money doesn't grow on trees, that you work for what you have, and that no one owes you anything just because you share DNA. That's not the family I raised, my mother said, her voice breaking. No, Mom. That's the family Jennifer created when she decided my success was her property. I left the house to the sound of shouting and accusations. My mother was crying. Marcus was arguing with Linda about the bets. Derek was consoling Jennifer, who was planning God knows what kind of retaliation. But as I drove home, I felt no guilt. I felt clarity. They had revealed exactly who they were when they thought money was involved. They had confirmed every suspicion I had about their motivations. And more importantly, they had given me all the justification I needed for what was going to happen next. Because while they were in my mother's living room planning how to force me to share Rebecca's inheritance, I had already begun to implement a very different plan. A plan that would involve every member of the family who had shown their true colors that night. If you've been following this family saga and want to find out how an inheritance can reveal the true character of those closest to you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because the real revenge was just beginning. When I got home, Rebecca was waiting for me with documents scattered on the kitchen table and a smile I hadn't seen in weeks. "How did it go?" she asked. "Exactly as we expected," I replied, showing her my phone, which had recorded every word of the conversation. They just gave us enough ammunition to make sure they never try that again. What they didn't know was that the meeting that night hadn't been about them convincing me to split the money. It had been about them condemning themselves with their own words. The next morning, Rebecca and I were at the lawyer's office at 8 o'clock sharp. Patricia Wells, an expert in asset protection, greeted us with the efficiency of someone who had dealt with predatory families before. "Based on the recordings you brought," she said, organizing documents on the mahogany desk, "we have solid legal grounds to establish additional protections." "What kind of protections?" Rebecca asked, her hand finding mine. "Irrevocable trusts with anti-manipulation clauses. If any member of Tom's family tries to sue you or contest the inheritance, they automatically forfeit any right to future benefits." Perfect. Jennifer had just permanently disqualified herself. "What about my mother's situation?" I asked. "We'll set up a direct medical fund. The $200 a month will go straight to the pharmacy. She'll receive the benefit, but she won't have access to the money itself." As Patricia prepared the documents, my phone rang. "Marcus. Tom, man, we need to talk again. Jennifer is talking about hiring a lawyer." "A lawyer for what, Marcus?" "To contest the inheritance. She thinks you're hiding assets that should be considered family property." Family property. As if marriage automatically turned Rebecca's inheritance into communal Harper property. "Marcus, you can hire all the lawyers you want. It doesn't change the fact that the inheritance isn't yours." "Tom, please. The family is tearing itself apart over this." "The family fell apart when you decided my marriage was an investment opportunity." I hung up and turned to Patricia. "They're talking about legal action." She smiled, a smile that cost $500 an hour. "Let them try. With the tapes you have, any lawsuit they file will be additional evidence of attempted extortion." 3 days later, Derek showed up at my work. I was leaving the sales meeting when I saw him leaning against my car, trying to look intimidating in his cheap leather jacket. "We need to talk, Tom." "Derek, you're not even official family. What part of this situation is any of your business?" "Jennifer is my girlfriend. Her problems are my problems." "Then you picked the wrong problems." He stepped closer, clearly trying to intimidate me physically. "Man, you guys have more money than you know what to do with. Why not help out the family?" "Because the family doesn't want help. You want a permanent source of income. And if you don't help voluntarily?" The threat was implicit but clear. I smiled, thinking of the security cameras in the parking lot recording every word. "Derek, you just threatened me at my place of business. In front of witnesses. That's not very smart for someone with a criminal record." His face went pale. "How do you know about?" "I know everything, Derek. Your 2 arrests for assault. Your child support debt. Your cancelled credit cards. The question is, does Jennifer know?" He backed away, finally understanding that he had completely underestimated the situation. "Tell Jennifer that if she or anyone in her family threatens me again, I will use every resource at my disposal to ensure that you face the full legal consequences." That night, Rebecca and I finalized the paperwork. $50 million completely protected in international trusts. Charitable funds established. Wills updated with specific clauses excluding any Harper who attempted to legally contest our decision. You know what's ironic? Rebecca said, signing the last document. What? If they had been genuinely caring, if they had treated you with respect, if they had approached this with humility, we probably would have helped. She was right. If Jennifer had come to me privately, explained my mother's situation without drama, asked for specific help instead of general access to money, things might have been different. Instead, they had shown exactly who they were when they thought money was involved. On Friday, I got a call I'd been expecting. Jennifer, her voice raised. Tom, you need to stop this shit right now. What shit, Jen? You know damn well. Derek told me about your conversation. The threats, the investigation into our past. Derek felt threatened because he found out I know the truth about him. Just like I know the truth about you. What truth? Do you really want me to detail your last 10 fake medical emergencies, Jennifer? Or would you rather I tell her how you manipulated our elderly mother into lying about her medication costs? The silence on the line was long. You have no proof of anything. I have all the proof, Jen. Every conversation, every lie, every attempt at manipulation. All documented, dated, and verified. If you're following how an inheritance can turn a family into predators and how someone can legally protect themselves from their own family, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because the real war was about to begin. One last chance, Tom. Divide the money voluntarily or we'll force you legally. Jennifer, I replied calmly, you just chose to go to war against the wrong people. When I hung up, Rebecca looked at me with that determined smile I had learned to recognize. Do they really think they can intimidate us? They don't know what they're up against yet, I replied, thinking of the legal protection documents, the incriminating recordings, and the $50 million that gave us unlimited resources to defend ourselves. But more than that, they didn't know that every threat, every attempt at manipulation, every desperate move they made from now on would be used against them in ways they couldn't even imagine. The family meeting had been just the beginning. Now it was time to show the Harpers what happens when you declare war on people who have both the resources and the determination to win. The legal action arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a bailiff who looked uncomfortable with the situation. Contest of inheritance for family alienation and concealment of assets, I read aloud to Rebecca, who was drinking coffee in our kitchen. They really did it. Jennifer had hired a cheap lawyer who clearly hadn't done his homework. The lawsuit alleged that I was manipulating Rebecca to hide assets that should be considered Harper family property. They think they can intimidate us with legal paperwork, Rebecca said, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Actually, I smiled, picking up my phone, they just walked into the perfect trap. I called Patricia Wells. It's here, I said simply. Perfect. You know what to do. What Jennifer and my family didn't know was that Patricia had prepared a response that went far beyond simply defending our position. We had spent 3 weeks documenting every extortion attempt, every threat, every lie they had told. On Thursday, Marcus called me, his voice tense. Tom, man, you need to drop that counterclaim. Jennifer's lawyer says you're suing the whole family. I'm not suing the family, Marcus. I'm suing specifically every person who tried to extort me, threatened me, or lied about my financial situation. What counterclaim? What are you talking about? You haven't gotten the subpoena yet? It should arrive today. Family extortion, emotional blackmail, coordinated threats. Each of you will be held individually liable. The silence on the line was delicious. Tom, you can't. I can, and I already have. Marcus, you documented your own criminal attempts when you recorded that meeting at your mother's house, thinking you were going to use it against me. What recording? The one Derek made on his cell phone. The one you used to plan your legal strategy. The one my lawyer obtained legally when Derek tried to blackmail me. Marcus hung up. Friday brought complete chaos. Jennifer showed up at my work, hysterical. Tom, you have to stop this shit. They're talking about jail. I went out to the parking lot, where she was waiting with Derek and, surprisingly, my mother. Mom, I said calmly, did you get a subpoena too? She was crying. Tom, honey, I didn't know it would come to this. I just wanted help with the medication. And you'll get it, Mom. $200 a month, straight to the pharmacy, for the rest of your life. You never had to get involved in this extortion. Jennifer exploded. Extortion? You son of a bitch. We're your family. Family doesn't threaten, lie, or try to steal, Jennifer. Derek took a step forward, trying to look intimidating. Man, you're going to drop this lawsuit or what, Derek? Are you going to beat me up here in my company parking lot, in front of security cameras, giving my lawyer even more evidence for the criminal case? He stopped, finally realizing that every move they made was being used against them. Tom, my mother said, her voice breaking, why are you doing this to us? Mom, I'm not doing anything to you. You did this to yourselves when you decided my marriage was a business opportunity. That's when Patricia arrived, along with 2 private investigators and a police officer. Mrs. Harper, Patricia addressed Jennifer, you are in violation of the restraining order by coming to Mr. Tom's place of business. And Mr. Derek, you are in violation of his parole by participating in intimidation. Jennifer turned pale. What restraining order? The one issued yesterday when we presented the recordings of your threats to the judge. Patricia handed new documents to each of them. This is the complete evidence that will be presented in the lawsuit. 6 months of attempted extortion, documented, dated, and verified. Including the recordings where you plan to use Mrs. Harper Sr.'s health to emotionally blackmail her son. My mother looked at Jennifer in shock. You said it was his idea to document everything. I never. Tom, you have to believe me. Mom, I looked directly at her. Do you want to know the truth? Rebecca and I were going to set up a fund for the whole family. $100,000 for each person, no questions asked. You would have been financially independent. The impact of the revelation was physical. Jennifer literally staggered. But you showed that you saw our money as your right, not our generosity. You proved that no amount would be enough. You proved that you respected the money Rebecca inherited more than you respected Rebecca. Derek tried one last card. Man, everyone makes mistakes. Derek, Patricia interrupted, you have 1 hour to leave town before we file a breach of trust lawsuit. If you've been following this family war and want to see how someone can legally protect themselves from their own family using unlimited resources, be sure to subscribe to the channel because justice was about to be served in a way none of them expected. Jennifer, I said, my voice calm as Patricia had taught me, you had 6 months to choose love over greed. You chose greed every time. Tom, please, we're family. No, Jennifer. Family doesn't do what you did. You're just people who share my DNA and chose to become my enemies. As investigators documented more evidence and the officer escorted Derek off the property, I looked at my mother one last time. The $200 a month is still going, Mom. Because you really need it. But our relationship will never be the same. What none of them realized until that moment was that the real twist hadn't been protecting our money from them. It had been using our money to ensure that they faced real legal consequences for trying to steal from us. 6 months later, I was sitting in Patricia Wells' office reading the final results of the cases. Jennifer, guilty of family extortion, 60 days in jail and 5 years probation. Marcus, guilty of attempted fraud, a $20,000 fine he didn't have. Derek, violation of probation, back to prison for 2 years. And his mother? Patricia asked, organizing the final documents. She signed an agreement acknowledging that she was manipulated. She continues to receive the $200 a month directly at the pharmacy. We talk once a week now. And the other family members? Uncle Robert moved to Arizona. Cousin Sandy stopped calling me. The rest of the family, let's just say the dynamic has changed completely. Rebecca walked into the office carrying coffee for all of us, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. How do you feel? She asked, sitting down next to me. Free, I answered honestly. For the first time in years, truly free. What we had discovered during the legal process was even more disturbing than we had imagined. Jennifer had developed a 20-year pattern of manipulating family emergencies to extort money from relatives. Marcus had lost the house not because of economic hardship, but because of systematic gambling at the casino. Derek had a history of approaching women with financial problems in order to exploit their situations. You know what's ironic? Rebecca said, leafing through the documents. If they had just asked for help honestly, respected our boundaries, and treated you like family, we probably would have helped, I added. At least with genuine situations. Patricia smiled. That's what I see all the time. Greed destroys more family relationships than anything else. When people see money as a right instead of a gift, they lose both the money and the relationship. Rebecca's phone rang. It was Emma, our neighbor. "Tom, you need to know," Emma said on speakerphone. "Jennifer drove by your house yesterday. She stopped in front of your house and sat there in her car for 15 minutes. Patricia leaned forward. "That's a violation of the restraining order. Do you want to pursue further charges?" Rebecca and I looked at each other. Jennifer had lost her job, her boyfriend was in jail, she had served her sentence, but she clearly hadn't gotten over her obsession with our money. "No," I finally said. "She's lost enough. And we've gained something much more valuable." "What?" "Clarity. About who really cares about us versus who cares about what we have." That night, Rebecca and I had dinner at home, something we hadn't done in peace in months. No phone calls from family members asking for money. No emergency meetings. No fabricated financial drama. "Do you regret anything?" she asked. I thought about Jennifer in prison, about Marcus facing real financial problems now, about my mother finally understanding how she had been manipulated. I regret not setting boundaries sooner. I regret allowing them to turn our success into guilt. But I don't regret protecting us. What about the 50 million? Are we still keeping it a secret? Forever. We've learned that money reveals people's true character. And we've seen enough. 3 years have passed since that disastrous birthday party. My mother and I have rebuilt our relationship, now based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. She never asked for money beyond her medication, and I never felt guilty about setting boundaries again. Jennifer occasionally tries to make contact through birthday cards or messages during the holidays, always with the same undertone that the family should get over the past. Marcus went bankrupt and moved out of state. Derek completed his sentence and, as far as we know, continues his pattern with other victims. But most importantly, Rebecca and I learned the difference between blood family and family of choice. Between people who love you and people who love what you have. Between generosity and emotional extortion. You know what was the most liberating part of this whole experience? Rebecca said last week as we planned our annual donation to an organization that protects seniors from financial abuse by family members. What was it? Finding out that we can be generous to those who deserve it and tough on those who exploit us. That saying no to manipulation doesn't make us selfish. That protecting our resources means protecting our ability to help those who really need it. Today, our inheritance continues to grow in protected trusts. We help charities, support genuine friends in difficult times, and live with the peace of mind that our financial decisions are our own. The last time I saw Jennifer was at the grocery store 6 months ago. She greeted me cordially, asked about Rebecca, commented on the weather. But her eyes still had that calculating gleam, as if she were evaluating my clothes, my shopping cart, looking for signs of vulnerability or new opportunity. Some people never learn that relationships are not business transactions. If you've been following this journey of how an inheritance revealed my family's true nature and how we managed to protect ourselves from financial predators, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We have many other stories of people who discovered that sometimes your real family isn't the one you share your DNA with, but the one that respects your boundaries. The lesson I will take with me forever is simple: money doesn't change people, it just reveals who they've always been. And when you discover the truth about someone, believe what you see. My family tried to turn our good fortune into emotional debt. Instead, they gave us the most valuable gift possible: the freedom to choose who deserves our generosity. And that freedom is worth far more than $50 million.